Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul, Liberty Hill Comics. It's a new year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys. This is
Yeah.
2025.
2025. It's crazy. Episode 41 of the Comic Book Conservation Live Show. I'm excited. Glad to have you here with us. And we started off the show with already. Oops, I went to the wrong one. We
That's
started
okay.
off the show already with a super chat from AG. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's awesome. I saw that.
Next episode is
Super
on
nice.
AG. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very
Much
generous.
appreciated.
All right.
We're so free.
We got a great show tonight. I'm excited. We're doing Batman #1 again. We did it in September in episode 27, but we have a new conserved copy that's sold. And I think it was an insanely good deal. Honestly, I wish I'd purchased it. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is going to be fun to talk about. Hey, I am with
Happy New
you
Year.
as always with my co-hosts, Phil from Phantom Restoration, Larry from Flying Owl Comics. Say hi, guys.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? I apologize. I missed our anniversary show. I was had some personal details to take care of, but I'm back now.
Awesome. Glad to have you here.
It's nice to have you back.
Yeah, tell everybody where they can find you. And you are currently in LA.
I am in the United Airport Lounge in Los Angeles. I'm running
Nice.
a virtual background just out of the courtesy of the people behind me. I'm trying not to talk too loudly for them. But
That one guy over your right shoulder looks like he's had better days. I'm talking about
that guy.
crime suspense stories. Number, what is it, 22?
That guy.
But there was a guy that popped up.
Yeah, all of those are books that I own, except for the two next to my head, the Superman and the Marvel
I was
Comics.
going to say, those would be
Nice.
I would
pretty
like to
impressive.
own those two. Yeah.
someday.
No, you can find me at on Instagram at Flying Owl Comics. You can find me on YouTube also at Flying Owl Comics and Facebook, of course.
Awesome.
Nice.
How about you, Phil? Say hi to the people.
Hey, everybody. Phil is always coming to you from the Brooklyn Queens line here in New York City. You can find me on Instagram at Phantom Restoration for the time being. And I'll leave that at that. And it's great, as always, to be here on Sunday night. I'm drowning in comics, as always. And I had
That's a good place to be.
long
That
holiday
sounded-
New Year, and I have it seems as time goes on, it's like, I'll do work for some clients and then not hear anything back for maybe a year, and then they'll check in, and sometimes it's a couple of years and they check in or they don't. But it seems in the last 3 weeks, I don't know if the beacon light was on, and it just, I'm more swamped than I've ever been as long as I've been doing this. Like, the amount of messages I haven't responded to because I just got so overwhelmed that I need to like parse everything out, and just really, it's exciting, and it's also a little overwhelming. So
Sure.
Well, definitely
All of
feast
those
on
things. Yeah.
that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Also, that sounded like a teaser.
yeah, a little bit.
A little
I
bit.
hope you can make an announcement on this show. Can you do that?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Good.
right.
Sometime soon. Well, let's say hi to the people. My buddy Hugo Danner's here. Hey, Mike, what's up? AG, again, thank you so much for the generous super chat.
Yes. Thank you.
Professor Peter Alachi's here. Check out his channel, Experiments in Conservation. Don Carter, as always, thank you for joining, Don. Rick Nestor, Knights of Old. Ben Stewart, all regulars. Bronzeville, welcome. Is this being simulcast on TBS? Funny story. I'll take just a moment to do an aside. When my big sport in high school was wrestling, and at some point, our coach was very serious about teaching us all kinds of stuff about just being successful. And at some point, the coach made all practices start at like 35 minutes after the hour. And he said, the reason why is this is like a psychological thing. If you say be there at 5:30, people are like, show up at 5:30, 5:35, 5:32, maybe 5:37. If you say 5:35, people show up on time. So
That's
that's just something I picked up back in high school, and I still do it. Welcome, Bronzeville. Thanks for asking. Archivist Adrift, our buddy Jason is here. Check out his conservation channel as well. Does great work. And Evangelon, welcome. Glad to see you here. Aaron Conyers, welcome. Alan C., welcome. I think Ben wants to see your pile of good stuff later. Maybe we'll do that, Phil.
I keep it in an ever rotating series of boxes in my room, so no one will ever know where they are. No,
Awesome.
Fun stuff.
Captain Larry has an open bar, so
I do.
How this goes.
Cheers, everybody. Over my face.
That's fun.
It's a Coke. There might be a little bit of Bacardi in there.
Very nice. Jason, thank you so much for the
Thank you,
super
Jason.
chat.
Yeah, thank you,
Really
Jason.
appreciate it. He was here at 8:30, so I think that's actually the point. You were here at 8:30, and as my friends in ROTC used to say, if you're not 10 minutes early, then you're late. So we have all kinds of things with the clock going.
Yeah, it gives time for people to do it.
All right. Why don't we jump right into our A segment? Phil's going to have a B segment on a conservation he did on an issue of Detective Comics.
Yeah.
And our A segment is, as usual, what are conserved comic books worth? So why do we care? Well, we're conserving comics. We're putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into them, a lot of energy. We hope to create equity. I mean, at least we don't want to lose any equity. And sometimes it's a crapshoot. Sometimes it just seems random what a conserved comic book is worth. I think it behooves us to be smart on the market and the fair market value. And again, if you're even a consumer of conservation, maybe you're not going to do a conservation yourself, but you're going to hire somebody to do it. You want to know that if you spend money, the book is worth more when you started or more when you're finished than when you started. Otherwise, why are you investing the money in it? We do a lot of our work. Larry and I are hobbyists, and many of the viewers here are hobbyists. We do a lot of this work for the love of the hobby, for the love of the books, and just to preserve some of these much loved treasures. But you certainly don't want to put all that energy in and then lose equity in a book. So we need to be wise on that front, and that's why we do this segment. So Batman #1, we've talked about it before, really major key of the Golden Age. I don't know. I guess we talked about this before. It's worth revisiting again. Obviously, it's not one of the two most important books ever.
It's the third.
Is it?
I would say it's up there.
I'd say because of the Joker, it easily trumps Soup 1. I feel like Superman gets Action Comics 1 because he came before Batman and a technicality. But as time goes on, people have argued too that Detective 27 might at some point surpass that in terms of value, possibly.
Sure.
But in terms of position 3, I don't know. I think on paper Superman 1 is worth more, but I think this one has more. I'm biased, come on.
Of course you are. Where is All-Star 8 in your? Where's All-Star 8 in your pantheon?
Top Golden Age. I mean, probably it's in 10th place. I don't know, somewhere around there.
What about All-Star 3? First superhero team ever.
Yeah. Oh, you're putting me on the spot now.
Yeah, I am. Well, I don't have this at number 3, but I have it very high, and it is a very significant book. And my opinion is not all that important anyway. But let's jump right into it. Spring 1940, very early pre-war Golden Age. First Joker, first Catwoman. Median grade for this book is a 2.5, only 147 in Universal. 310 all grades. When I took this screen grab, and I don't know, there's always some jostling, but exactly the same number of restored and Universal books.
That's interesting.
Kind of fun, right? Yeah. So 310 in the CGC census. I haven't looked in the CBCS census, but we're talking about a book that surely has fewer than 500 copies still known. And they're not, if a few more get discovered, a few more will be destroyed in floods. So we're pretty much at peak Batman #1. I don't think there's going to be that many more.
Yeah, barn finds are going to be kind of scarce.
Yeah, and again, like for every barn find at this point, you're probably going to have a flood or something that's going to a fire that's going to take one out. So Rick Nestor says top 5. I think that's
that's
pretty safe. I think top 5 is pretty safe.
I got to thinking about it. I think for me personally, I'm kind of with Phil on this one. It's probably number 3 for me. I like this book. Yeah, first Joker. I mean,
more important than
first Catwoman.
More important than Captain America 1? More important than Marvel 1?
Marvel 1 actually slipped for me. Captain America 1's up there. I put Captain America 1 probably about a 4 or a 5 for me.
I think Captain America is more important than the Joker myself personally, but I get it. I think that's why we have these conversations.
You're gonna give Phil a stroke.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, my brain's doing weird stuff.
He's punching Hitler in the jaw years before we entered the war.
It's badass, but Captain America is not the most popular character, and
exactly,
Joker is the most popular villain.
Everybody knows who the Joker is, and you say Captain America. Oh yeah, I think okay.
Look at one of the most popular stories from the 80s. It's The Killing Joke. It's about Joker. And I mean, it's not a Superman story. It's not a Captain America story. So I don't know.
It's a good story.
I think he's got, especially with the movie like breaking $1 billion. We won't talk about the second one, but just the first one, I think that's kind of an incredible feat.
Now, if you handed me both these books, Captain America 1 and Batman 1, and said pick one, that would be tough for me, actually.
Yeah. I agree.
Not for me. I'd take the Cap 1. Knights of Old is with me, but Bronzeville's with you. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could go on and on. But here's the most recent sale of a 4.0. It presents reasonably well, actually. Despite the staining on the back cover and a partial spine split, it's not missing any pieces, which some 4.0s will be missing, at least not visibly here. Nothing that you'd see at arm's length. So we're just establishing the value of Universal here. This one has top spine, medium spine split, bottom spine, small spine split, front cover, address, date, name stamp. I don't even know why they put that there.
Yeah, that doesn't.
This doesn't have I don't see the date that this was graded either. So this is a little bit older.
Yeah.
I don't think today they would put that there. Front cover, back cover soiling. We saw that. Front cover soiling, not nearly as extensive. Back cover fingerprints, front cover fingerprints, left top back cover crease. I mean, a well-loved copy. Back cover stain, left bottom back cover crease, bottom back cover tear. A well-loved copy, but still complete, cream to off-white. Might be a good candidate for conservation itself, though. I think let's put a pin in that for a moment. This is what it sold for earlier this year. Oh, well, I can't say earlier this year anymore. About 6 months ago.
Yep, 6 months ago.
Over $250,000. In fact, once you add tax on that, I think this easily trips $300,000.
Yeah. It could have been a dealer that bought it too, but yeah, in case it wasn't, then it's anywhere this
or
versus
if you're in a state without sales tax. What is it?
315,
Nevada,
probably.
No.
Yeah. That's a good chunk of change though. If there is tax.
It is. That's a big chunk.
Can I just highlight this comment too, because in case people have been noticing, I don't know if CGC came out officially with a statement about it, but it does seem, at least for the time being, and possibly going forward. Unfortunately, if you search a label on the label verification on the CGC website, they not only do they not show the date it was graded, but I've seen the notes omit things that they used to show, and we'll kind of get to that later in the segment I'm going to show, because I remember
interesting,
specific notes that they got edited and revised when this happened. But yeah, this is
Wow.
unfortunate.
AI is scrubbing all of their graders notes, maybe. I mean, because I can't imagine somebody manually going through and doing that would be such a massive waste of
them?
their resources.
Yeah, or what the game would be for them.
They
to
what do they have?
grade that
10
in.
million things graded now? Silly.
Yeah, I don't know what the angle is.
Okay, so we just saw that one. Here's our conserved 4.0. Cleaner looking, presents
Wow.
pretty well as well, but does have this piece out of the back cover.
Some meat on the bone, as Larry likes to say.
Meat
Yeah.
on the bone. Meat on the
Yeah.
bone.
There's meat right there in the bone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You guys, you're not going to believe why this is conserved.
I was just looking at the label there, but
Married centerfold.
That's it. That is it. They did nothing else.
Right center.
Married
on the top of the
centerfold,
label,
piece out, right
it's-
center of back cover.
the
Moderate
label,
multiple
it
crease
says-
front cover.
tear seals to interior cover and centerfold reinforced, but it doesn't say that in the grader's notes. So it's an inconsistency, probably due to the revision that was just mentioned about the dates being removed. I don't know what's
Man.
because it's not
Oh,
comprehensive.
you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what's going on?
regardless, bananas.
Yeah,
Yeah. Off white to white pages. Married centerfold. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all I see.
The other one had cream pages, or cream to off-white, perhaps. So this book actually sold back in October. Why are we covering it now? Because in September, in episode 27, we had covered a Batman #1 that was a conserved 3.5. And then this sold like a couple weeks later. And we didn't want to do back-to-back Batman 1s. But half a year, well, a quarter has passed. And I wanted to revisit this book. So full disclosure, the sale wasn't in the last few weeks. It was in October. Anybody want to guess what this book hammered for?
I'm so bad at these.
Right. Turns out
I mean-
none of us are good at it.
yeah.
Partially why we do this segment. How about how about among the viewers?
I'm gonna put
Guesses?
100 on it.
100 grand. Okay,
Yeah.
that would be 40% ish.
Paul, based on what you said before about this being steel price and there being a married centerfold here, I'm going to go with the traditional a quarter of the universal label price. So if the universal went for 240, was it?
I think it was
288.
Oh,
288.
excuse me, 288. So okay, so a quarter of that.
120.
Yeah.
Ish. You're at 120. All right. Ben's at 175. Rick's at 140. AG's at
Alan.
120. Alan's at 111. Anybody else want to weigh in before the reveal?
Knights of Old 145.
All right.
Okay.
It's redonkulous.
Wow. Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
Wow.
That's a kick in-
Evangelon at
that's a
77
real-
or 75,000.
Where did this sell?
Metropolis.
Huh.
How insane is that? That's why I said I wish I'd have bought it. For real.
No,
yeah, I would have
I would
figured out how to buy it myself. Yeah.
That just seems-
this is a 5.0 or 5.5 or 6 conserved once it's leaf cast on the back from what I'm seeing. So
Yeah,
that's
so I
crazy.
agree with that. Yeah.
That's nutty.
Yeah. This one, people were sleeping on. And I don't know what was happening in October, but
Yeah.
people
are-
were sleeping on this book.
Well,
Or
Wow.
weren't we getting ready for the big heritage sale about that time, October?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
I think
let's-
people are sitting on
The
their
venue,
hands.
the venue too. I mean, I know a lot of people that, for their own individual reasons, won't bid there. So that could be an issue.
I don't think, Phil, you tried to read it. So the graders notes, there's a question about what actually happened or what the label says, right? And I think it's a little bit small. So here, I'll read it.
Oh, I see.
Conservation includes tear seals to interior, cover and centerfold reinforced, married centerfold.
So all they
That's
did
it.
was
So no wash.
reinforce the centerfold for the staple hold.
Ben, just to be clear, it could be a blue label, but you'd have to remove the married centerfold, and this could get a 0.5 at best blue label if you're really into the blue label. However, it wouldn't probably make sense to just do that to get it.
Or wouldn't it?
Centerfold.
Maybe
we're
about to
I'm wrong.
talk about
and
that.
then sell the centerfold separately if you're just
Sell the
looking at it
centerfold for
from-
$5 or $10
from
grand on the
equity.
side. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
maybe
This is
maybe it makes
ridiculous.
sense.
This is absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I thought it was worth going back to cover. So
Wow.
for the record, this is not the one we just showed you. This is from episode 27, September of last year. A Universal 3.5 is worth just under $250,000, and the conserved copy sold for just over 50. So a 3.5 conserved sold for over 50 grand in September. A 4.0 conserved the next month, just a few weeks later, sold for only 41. And the 4.0, of course, in Universal sells for more than the 3.5 in Universal, close to 300 grand. So this sold for literally 18%. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
There's definitely some equity to be made here. Slice it a number of different ways. Either crack that and finish the conservation, create more equity.
That's exactly what I would do.
Crack it, pull out the centerfold and sell it separately and get yourself a Universal. And I'll show you why. I mean, this book was screaming to have something done with it, and somebody got a cracking deal. So we're going to do a little would you rather. This is the most recent 0.5 that sold. It looks like a dog's dinner, as they say across the pond.
Yeah.
Brittle pages, all this tape residue, chunks missing out of the back, chunks missing out of the interior, won't even fit in a Golden Age holder. They had to put it in a magazine holder.
Yep.
Wow.
Brittle pages, multiple wraps, completely split, detached, brittle chipping, tape stains on cover, tape to the spine, tape to the interior, spine and cover completely split, cover detached, pieces out of cover, multiple pieces out of the interior, multiple detached wraps, tape on page 1. It is the first appearance of the Joker. So it has
complete.
that going for it.
It's complete.
It's close to complete.
I was just going to say it's
Well,
I thought it was going to have the
it's close to
centerfold
complete.
missing.
Yeah, me too.
It's close to complete, right? I mean, that's a significant chunk out of the back cover,
Wow.
but it's not, and even the top.
This is a tough
the
would
B.
you rather. I already know what the would you rather is. So this is tough.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be easy, but I'm curious what you guys think. Would you rather have that one that just
this sold for 40. Now, this was back in November 2022. These don't trade hands that often. I only saw one sell after this, and it was missing the back cover, but it was a pedigree. We featured it in September in episode 27, so I thought I'd feature this one instead. There was also a coverless one that sold, but completely coverless I didn't think was a very good comparison here. That one, so I thought this was the best would you rather. It's 41,000 versus 42,000.
I think this one can be brought up, conserved into maybe a 2 with leaf casting and cleaning. Yeah, hard to say. 1.5 to 2. Could be
But
brought
there's
up,
no
though.
question in current state.
No,
It's not
no.
even close.
I
The
would
thing
say
is that the one
want the
sold
book on
for
the right.
41,000. I mean, you got a 4.0 conserved at 41,000. You could bring this one up to maybe a 2. I mean, to what end is that getting you? I mean,
I'm a sucker for eye appeal, but I hate to say it. The one on the left to me is more attractive because it's all there and it's all original. And
yeah,
I would
agree.
argue, depending on how much color loss you get, especially even more so after watching some of.
Are we looking at the same books, Phil?
Yeah, am I having an
I'm just busting. I'm just
Oh,
busting
huh.
the chops.
So honestly, and I say it with a caveat because I would have gone with the one on the right all day, except in the last show we had with the professor, where he was showing with the gels lessening that harsh tape stain that you see on there. I'm optimistic maybe that could be removed, and I think despite the page quality there, since everything's complete, it would be so much work. But at the end of the day, the one on the right is missing its original centerfold. So if it could be done with the work on the left, I would say do it all. And I would say best case, if you can get the page quality to bump up with the cleaning, I could see a 3.0 maybe conserved. And to me, I think a 3.0 conserved has more equity than a book on the right with a married centerfold.
I guess this is why they call it a marketplace.
I'm looking
I
at
don't see it at all. I mean, look at the one on the left. Look at the free chunks of paper that are just floating in the holder because it's so brittle that chunks are flopping
that's
off.
interior. That's interior. That's not the
Okay.
as you say, the front cover is so much like
yeah,
the cover
who
itself
really
is a lot
cares about the
greater.
interior?
Who cares about the interior except the centerfold we care about?
Well,
Yeah.
I think if you
it can be
conserve
washed
the one on the right
successfully.
properly, if it's actually deacidified, those original holes will just pulp over, and I don't even know that it's a married centerfold once it's fully conserved.
Maybe. That's being pretty
Yeah, I know.
optimistic, though.
That's pretty optimistic because you can
I
look
think-
at the ink tints and things like that. And tell
You
when
can look
stuff
and
is-
see like, oh, the
run.
registration is just the gap between the.
I think it's pretty optimistic to think you can resurrect this brittle piece
It
of
is.
caca on
It
the
is.
left.
It is. It is.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't try it, but you know,
I'll put it this
pretty
way,
rough.
actually, though. I think they both have more meat on the bone. There's more equity to squeeze out of both of them.
Oh well, the 4.0 conserve most definitely it can be that's got room to be cracked.
Can I ask you your opinion then? So if both of these came to auction right now at Heritage, they're in the same auction, they're both selling back to back. It's like, I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that the one on the left, despite all its issues, they would go for a similar price, and the one on the left would go for a little bit more, just because there's more people that would want the copy that's all original, even with brittle pages, despite all of the rest.
That may be true. Yeah, that may be true.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I think, we all have things that are triggers for us in our collecting, right? Like me personally, I can't stand tape on a book. Can't stand it.
either.
Same.
Drives me crazy.
I
It screams to be removed.
I really don't like missing pages or centerfold or whatever, but I don't mind married. Doesn't bother me at all. Came off the same assembly line, and that's like, if I had a 63 split window vet and one of the wheels got wrecked at some point and I got a date coded correct one off the line, new old stock, wouldn't bother me at all.
Yeah,
What
I
about-
mean, no,
what
not-
about-
Wouldn't lose any
I
sleep
agree.
over that, right?
Well, I've seen people ask too. Is what about missing covers? How do you feel about that? Complete book but missing cover.
Well, that's not a complete book. That's a misnomer.
Exactly.
Actually, that's one of my pet peeves. People list on eBay say, Batman 1 complete coverless.
Coverless.
What?
Yeah.
That's
It's
what?
just coverless. That's
Just say
Yeah,
coverless.
First, it's not
And
complete.
actually,
Or-
that's kind of one of the
Or
reasons
say
I brought it up.
otherwise complete, right? Missing nothing but the cover, perhaps, but complete coverless nonsense.
Yeah.
Complete utter nonsense. I don't like coverless books. Look though. At the same time, if all you can afford on your budget is a Batman #1 with no cover, awesome, right?
Well, I just picked up like a early 2-digit Wonder Woman for like $29.
Oh yeah,
Missing a cover.
no, why not? Yeah,
Why not?
Totally cool.
Yeah, the price is right. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, Phil, I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but for me, if these are both coming up in the same auction, 40 grand ish, I think it's got to be the one on the right. Like, to me, actually, just not even close. I just think the one on the left is too far gone. I don't want to gamble that I can somehow
It is a
reverse the
gamble.
brittleness. I think the one on the right is more of a sure thing.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that.
yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Cool.
Let's see what other folks said while we were chatting about it.
Yeah, I was reading all of our comments here off to the side.
Oh, let's see if we can do. I don't know if that came through. I tried.
It popped up for a second. There we go. Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe a ton of neaters.
See? Yeah.
The professor guarantees it. The professor
It
guarantees it.
says you can remove those tapes.
I'm
Down.
going to be doing a lot of experimenting with that stuff now because it's, as we can tell, people don't like it. And his experiments, I was very.
Oh, we can get the tape off just fine now, but it's those stains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ben, this is a great question. Should I liquidate a portion of my collection to have 40 to 60K sitting in cash for an opportunity like this? I think you should always have some dry powder, as they say, in the investing world. What percentage of your net worth should be in comic books is up to you. For me personally, since you asked and since we're talking about it, I don't think of comic books as an investment until I've already got my 401k fully funded, my IRA fully funded. I've made all my payments on my mortgage and my car and whatever else, and I don't have any credit card debt. And if I've done all those things and I've put some money away for retirement, I might consider about 10% of my retirement money in comic books, just like you might
That's
consider
fair.
10% of your money in gold or something silly like Bitcoin. For me personally, generally, I don't think you should consider it an investment because they're very illiquid, frankly. Generally, just comic books in general. That said, again, if you've done all those other things and you want to diversify, I do think we're going to continue to see quite a bit of inflation over the next decade. You want hedges against inflation. Assets are good hedges against inflation. Collectible assets are. And if you have blue chips that are slabbed, they're more liquid than our other comic books. So that would be my input. So I would say, yeah, I do.
That's kind of how I think of it too. Yeah. I mean, this, for Paul and I, this is a hobby, and this is things that we do for fun. But on a side note, yeah, you are investing a significant portion of your personal wealth into some of these high-end books, and you really need to educate yourself on what you can afford. Is that book going to hold value? Of course, the Golden Age books almost always hold value, unless you have a Batman #1 that's conserved.
Well, books, they do go up and down.
They do.
I try to be a net seller when the market's really high. I try to be a net buyer when the market is depressed. Those things help as well. But just to give a personal example here, I did not intend to spend as much on my All-Star collection in 2024 as I did. However, a couple of really significant books came to market, books that you just,
you can't pass.
You may never see again. I definitely haven't seen in the last decade. I wouldn't expect to see again in the next decade. And I was glad I had some dry powder available to me. So.
Yeah, I have books on my kill list that I've been waiting 10 years or longer for to pop up, and they're just not there. And when they pop, I will go full tilt on it,
Yep.
no matter what. So
I bought 2 books in the last year that sold at significant discounts to the last time they traded hands, but they were, 5-figure books. I got the All-Star 1, the Carson City pedigree.
yeah,
And I picked up the Mile High pedigree number 9. And both of those books, again, they were tens of thousands of dollars collectively off what they sold for last. And if I didn't have some cash available when those came up, I wouldn't have been able to pounce on them. So
now all of this said, don't run out and sell all your comic books just by what we said.
no,
Really think about what
I'll say, and I'll say one more thing along these same lines. I like to buy things when I want them, not when I need them. I like to sell things when I want to sell them, not when I have to sell them, right? So put some things up at some relatively high prices. See if you get some bites. Let a few go if you get prices that you're happy with. By the same token, buy things when you want them, not when you need to have them, and you'll tend to just get them at the right price. So who knew this was going to turn into personal finance book show? Knights of Old is with me, doesn't care whether or not. Did the whistle come through at all? Did my mic cut the whistle? I tried. Oh no, Ben says
so
got
bad
this
the
on
mic
his head.
auto cut.
I heard it.
Yeah, we heard it. It was good. It was in tune.
Friend of the channel, Vanna says, what about investing in golden cute lifetime friends? I think we should all be investing in our friends. That's the most important investment you can make. You can get an education working on 100 books a year, reselling 60 to 80, keeping 20 to 40, or save for 3 to 5. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yep.
The only issue is being responsible in that and actually selling those books and not saying, well, I really like these ones. No, because that's the other issue with this is it becomes a part of the allure of finding a book you haven't seen in a while is there's an addictive nature where you're like, well, I gotta pounce now because it really could be a once in a 10-year opportunity, but it's easy to make, I've overextended more times than I care to admit for.
Oh, me too.
Books.
Yeah, I've had stuff where I had to stop myself.
Yeah.
Or worse, I've overvalued things, and then when it came time and I did have to sell it, I had that check where I was like, oh man, so it's
I think as you mature as a collector, at least as I've matured as a collector, I go more with quality, less with quantity. I'm a bit more discerning. I'm a bit more disciplined, and that helps a lot. So I sent, as another example in my own life, everybody knows I sent in 25 books during the vintage tier sale that CGC had for submissions. Of those, I think I have literal 2 that I intend to keep long term. I have 3 others that I think I'll keep around for a while. One of them wasn't mine. So that's 21 books that are going straight for sale.
For market.
And then probably 2 others that at some point in the future I'll either sell or maybe I'll do a giveaway on the channel or something else with them, but they won't be in my collection forever. So yeah, that's the way I like to collect it. Keeps it fresh. It keeps it fun. I think Golden Friends, but maybe Vanna wants to weigh back in. This is a good point. I actually have a couple copies of this that are not slabbed, and I probably need to get on that.
Never got that one.
It came out when I was a kid. I remember actually I grabbed a few from the I grabbed a few from the comic shop, and I put a few away in bags and board and never read. I may have not read any of them. Anyway, all right. Well, I think that was fun, and we had some lively conversation around it. We had some actual true debate in terms of what we value as collectors, and that's cool. Shall we jump into our B segment?
That would be great.
Oh man, it looks like the
Tech
penguin's on the move
87
again.
with a busted spine.
I love that. That's fun.
It is great.
It's just a quick one because this I did like over 5 years ago, and like I had to try to find the photos, and I didn't have that many photos of it, but I had enough just to show something, and it's kind of just a trip back in time from the pre-current conservation standards that CGC has.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, you know, this Vanna's last comment actually triggered one other thing I wanted to say. The books are only worth what somebody's willing to pay. And that's absolutely true. And one thing I wanted to say when we said Golden Age seems to keep going up. That's true, but you know, it's also true of tulip bulbs at one point and stamps, right? Could comic books go away? I think they absolutely could. That said, these media properties are continuously invested in. I think comic books are way bigger now than they were when I was a kid. And it seems unlikely in our lifetimes or even in the next few generations that it's going to go to zero. Really, to me.
Try getting top dollar for your Beanie Baby collection nowadays.
Right. I mean, there are plenty of things that go out of favor for sure. I do think that this one has a special place, and as long as Time Warner and Disney continue to invest in these intellectual properties,
Which they will.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to continue to go up. So if they stop investing in those properties, then I think that would be a good time to maybe cut your losses or cut your gains, as it were. But until then, I really feel they're pretty safe. And special shout out to Rick from Immaculate Comics.
Hey, Rick.
Good to see you, Rick. If you're not checking out his channel on YouTube, please do so.
Good, please check out Rick's website and his channel.
All right. Sorry for the aside, Phil. Take it away.
Oh no! Any time to cut into this because this is going to be the shortest segment I do. I only had
it's okay.
a few photos to share, but it's such a fun book, and I figured it was relevant with the Batman one. So this is what I was doing when I was buying books specifically with the intention to flip them and get some cash coming in. And
So this was your book personally.
Yes,
This was not a customer book.
Correct. And so I bought this at the time. I was basically looking for books that had a decent amount of overall eye appeal and that the damage was mostly isolated to just the spine area. Because I knew that within the parameters of the conservation label, I could do tear seals, spine split seals, mending anywhere on the book and still get the conserved label. And you could add structural pieces, which at the time was at the spine, and you could add them traditionally, and it would help bump the technical grade up. So I saw a book like this, and I was like, hot damn, that's, I'll be able to reattach the cover. I'll be able to fill in that missing paper at the spine, and there really isn't any other missing paper on the cover. So, it's a win. There's some color loss, obviously, on the front. So, this isn't ever going to get an 8.0 or something like that. No. It can get way better than the 1 to 1.5 that this is now, which is what it would be. So, and just saving this. I mean, you can tell. It is always amazing to me. You can see the cover was completely split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's amazing that it was able to split like that. That the color, like that red, is so easy to just like mishandle, and it just will like chip off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very delicate.
Yeah.
You can see there it is.
Wow.
That's ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
So a book like this a few years ago, what are you paying for a book like this? Like $300?
If you actually give me a minute, I can tell you exactly what I paid, because that's the beautiful thing. Yeah. I'm sure accountants know that too. You can go to your email history and find basically anything. So hold on, let me see. I'm sure I got it on eBay or my comic shop.
I mean, that would be about what I would want to pay for it.
Yeah, that'd be about my limit for paying for something like that. I'd like to keep it a little bit less than that, so there's room to wiggle on it when you do the conservation work.
That was from eBay. It was $150 with $8 shipping.
You did a great
Okay.
job.
That's
Yeah.
a great job. Yeah.
So I think I figured at
deal.
the time, I was like, grading costs, my time, the grade will come back. I think looking at what it was, I was like, I can probably make at least $100 or something, and then go up from there depending on what it would be. It's
Sure.
not a lot, but
Sure.
I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
I can do this.
No,
work
it's
and
something.
No, but you're
it's-
saving a comic and creating some equity, and you want to practice your craft. And
And I fucking love Batman, and this
Oh,
is
and
such
it's
a cool
Batman.
book. And I was just like, exactly. That's where the bias comes in, where you
Okay.
end up being like, what's the
We're-
hourly rate? It's
we're
not about
PG-13 now. That was our one F-bomb.
that. Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry, I got really excited there. Love
He
that.
did.
Okay, so I don't. That's all the photos. I really wish I had more, but this was from a while ago. So at this point, there's nothing from before. This was just the app.
Wow,
I can look
that's
now,
huge. Look at that.
Wow.
Geez, so that's the thing too. Getting able to, I remember this was just at the point where I was getting like really confident in my ability to do some of this, and like with the attention to detail, the things that when I first started, I wasn't thinking about. Like for example, when you're mending a totally split spine, and you're reattaching everything from the get-go, right? From zero, you're going back to this. You have to think about how that color, like it's not a perfect, like it's not split perfectly. There's a little bit of a lap here and a lap here. So if you're only focused on the inside cover when you're doing the mending, and you're not focused on what it's going to look like on the other side, you'll mend it and you'll overlap some of that paper where you're not supposed to. And
Absolutely.
I did that very thing on some of the first books. So I was thinking about it like you have to do the conservation anyway. So keep in mind what it will look like from the other side. Make sure if this side needs to be laid over this side a little bit here, that it is. It's not like those things add up. You can't just assume that.
Well, you put all the material back in the right places. I see that it's really white. How did you mend this? What are those fills or?
That's
So if I wish I could look here. It's very, very possible that the picture on the left is actually a photo and the picture on the right is a scan or the raking light. Because I think if you look at the back cover here, that's a picture. I can't remember. Maybe it was scans, but at the time there were little things like that where there. I didn't wash the cover, so there shouldn't be anything that you would see that there.
I think Phil, his question is your infill method
Yeah, you're in.
is white paper. What is this is
It
the
look-
old
yeah,
this
it
is what
looks
they
like a
used to
cat.
allow. This is what they used to allow in conservation
Oh, I see
before
what
they
you're
said
saying. Yeah, so it's
only leaf
We'll
casting.
see here. It's more apparent here in the back. So really, I was just kind of going with
Yeah.
what was available. It wasn't the best match, but from the front, you can see that top corner that's missing. That white
yeah.
kind of blends with the white of the penguin box ad. You know,
So
so I was
was
kind
this
of
an
trying to
early leaf cast then?
base it out. No, so this was not this. This was, and we've done this. I should have just included the photo on here, but
Here,
this is
I'll
when I would
highlight
use
you.
this method. This was the layering of tissues, where you can kind of get a good eye there, right? So this is when I would be like, cool, if I put 6 of these, then I make this. If I make a sandwich and I do 1 and then what is this? A tan Hidaka Kyushu and then another tan Hidaka, I'll get this color. So this is the kind of color matching I was doing prior to any leaf casting.
So that's what you're seeing there. So from the interior, you see that, and that is mended in. So that serves both as the infill and then also as the essentially sort of tear seal and reinforcement in the same way that Tengujo does.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been at the time use fill notated, but it would have been because it was at the spine for that period of time acceptable.
It was allowed.
Conservation, yeah.
Allowed
Whereas
with
now if
conservation.
this was resubmitted, it would be a purple label.
Right. Because CGC decided that Leafcast is sort of the professional way to do this now. Although I think there's plenty of conservation labs still doing this work.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in, and leaf casting is the only way now. In fact, I kind of wonder if this was resubbed, what they would do. Not resubbed, but if it was sent in for reholder, even, what would they do? It seems like they would have to honor the original conservation.
Well, my question for Phil is, knowing it's been 5 years, knowing what you know, and your skill sets have developed, would you go back and revisit this book?
No, just because of the value of the book, it's just not
You
worth
just
it.
leave it? Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I sold it
Oh,
shortly
okay.
after. Yeah, I mean that was the intention. I got this in a group of books, and as
Yeah,
soon as I got it, I was
you're
like,
gonna
right
flip it.
up for
Yeah.
sale. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was like, had $150 plus time, and probably one of the lowest grading tiers I think I was able to get away with. So,
And you can do the equity ladder, right? Like if he paid
Yeah.
150 for this, after all of his costs, he sells it and nets 500. You can then buy a $500 project book. After all of your costs, you net 800 for that, and you just keep doing that equity ladder until you
I
have
do
Batman
remember.
1.
I do remember there's quite a few questions I had from interested people on eBay that were not understanding the conservation, and they're saying, so where that color loss isn't, that's a piece added? And I was like, yes. And some people were like, oh, okay, thank you, like they didn't want this, but the person that did end up buying it the book, and they were happy with
Perfectly
it.
happy.
Yeah.
No, I think it looks great.
Yeah.
No, it does, especially again with what you started with and that you preserved this. I mean,
One thing-
folks know I have both restored and conserved books in my collection, in addition to having many universals, and they just all have a different place in my collection. And again, conserved and restored books will help you fill in spots in your collection with books that present really well for a fraction of the price,
Exactly.
or at a discount that fits your budget. So it's just one of those things. One of the things I really like about our hobby is that there are just so many hobbies within the hobby and so many different directions one can go, choices you can make. We don't all have to like the same thing. It'd be a bummer if we did, because it would be unobtainable for most of us, right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes it fun.
Well, it's like I brought up before, the three of us. I mean, the three of us, we don't necessarily agree on the same method. You know, we that's the beauty of these videos and our conversation. We throw all sorts of different things out there for people to see, and but for the most part, we do agree on stuff. Now it's done.
Looking at a book like this too, though, I do always, I feel like just, I don't know, like anyone doing this that is really hard on themselves and likes to be a perfectionist, all I ever see is the errors on the little things. I'm like, there's that little thing there where it didn't, and most of the time it's things that are out of my control anyway, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be happy with it. So when I was looking at the scans of this before I sent them to you, I was like, something's off with this, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And now I know too, because I did this so long ago. When you look at it from the front and you see the natural fanning of the interior pages, it looks natural, right?
Yeah.
On the right. Except you can almost argue that the front cover shifted maybe a little bit more than it needs to be, right? When I reattached it, I think.
Yeah,
that's
maybe, but these guys were cut, and they actually sort of twist as they're cut. The Golden Age books.
Yeah. So, but that said, there was a tell that I saw when I looked at the back cover. Because if you really zoom in on the left side, you can see there, it should be more flush there. And it isn't, because I pressed the interior here, but I did it back before I got better at pressing spine rolls out. And I think I pressed the spine roll out like 90%. Like it was very good. And at the time I was like, oh, that's good. I didn't know though that it can be better. Sometimes it can't always be. You know, there are some books the paper memory does not want to go. It is what it is. But looking at this here, it's a cover reattached to a book with the spine roll mostly taken out, but not entirely. So that shift is why it doesn't pull back all the way as it should. And it's very close, but that's my OCD being like, it's probably, and I could be wrong. Maybe it is what it is.
But Phil, isn't the cover short at the top on the back and also short at the top on the front? How could that be the spine roll? It feels like it's more just a cut.
Near the bottom. It should definitely be more flush.
Near the bottom. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Part of it could have just been in how I reattached it too, because again, those that have done this work know that you do all the work, and one of the most crucial parts is reassembling it. And if you're making new holes in the cover, you know how crucial it is that there's no room for like, well, it's pretty close. It's like, no, it's either at the exact orientation of the staples or it's not. And if you really look down to it, you can be like, it was off by a 1/16 of an inch, and that can just shift the cover just enough where you can notice it.
Right.
Hey, Jerry just joined us.
Oh, hey.
Jerry?
Hey, Jerry.
There's a Jerry spotting. Jerry and I just missed each other in Florida, actually. And he had a busy holiday season. We invited him for the year-end wrap-up, but he couldn't join us because he had to do holidays with several family members at different times. So welcome to the show, Jerry. We'll have you on again soon.
Thanks for being here, bro.
I think Jerry would have to speak for himself. I think Jerry did make it to Disneyland. I was Disneyland adjacent and ended up at Universal Studios, where I got to visit the Marvel Village, which is always fun. And I did the Spider-Man ride again, which somehow was better than last time I did it. It was it's actually, even though that ride's been around for a long time, it was still very entertaining. Yeah, great job, Phil. In fact,
That's a great spine.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, we have like all kind of kudos in here for you. From the professor, from Rick,
Nice guys.
from Jason. Professor says you're an inspiration.
Oh,
I think we're all like inspiring
This was,
one another.
no, this is great work.
Mike says big improvement.
I'd be thrilled with this.
Yeah. Are you done showing off, Phil?
So there's one last photo in this.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So that's the reveal, and I mean it's a little bit of a.
No, it's great.
Take your best guess, because what do you think? What do you think this book, seeing the right before and after photo, what it would get, taking into account, the paper's there now, but there's color loss, but it's all it's all there again. If I could just run one tip, if I could.
So we're guessing what it is. It's because we're guessing the grade that came back from CGC is the game, right?
I'd say with the paper loss, but it looks really nice and it's complete. I would give this a 2.5 to a 3. That's my take.
Yeah.
I am at conserved. I think I could go a little better than that. I'm going to say conserved 3 to 3.5. Okay. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone else want to guess? I have some comments and questions I want to come back to, but
guesses are coming in right.
They're coming in. Okay, Jason's at 2.5, Jerry's at 4.5, Evangelon 3.5. Comic Cat Collectors, welcome to the chat to the show.
Remember, everyone was horribly wrong the last time that we did this.
Ben Stewart's at 3.0.
Was it that USA 2?
This conserved 3.0.
Yeah, I blew.
Everyone was like 5.0, and it came back. It was like, what was that? Like
the professor's at 3.5. Don's at 4.
That was a 4.
Chaos maybe. Is at 2.0. Welcome collecting. All you have to do is ask a question, and the lurkers come out. Knights of Old is at 1.5. So we got the gamut here. Everyone from 1.5 up to. Did I see anything above a 4? 1.5 to.
Yeah, no, Jerry gave it a 4.5.
4.5, right? Yeah. Okay, so we we're all over the map from 1.5 to 4.5. Captain Larry's at 2.5 to 3. I'm at 3 to 3.5.
You don't think I shined this steaming pile of what was a book, and I made it?
I think
so brilliant.
Well, you got to look at it. It's a 1.0.
This is 9.0. You guys are all crazy. You're crazy. I
think it presents really well.
I think so too.
I wouldn't even be shocked if it was a 4, but I think it's more likely a 3. In my mind, it's a 3.5 plus or minus 0.5. That's actually where
Yeah,
I
that's
think
why I kind of went. I'm conservative. That's why I said 2.5 to a 3. It presents really well. Um, yeah, I'll stick with what I said. I think
All right, I
that's-
think the votes are
let's-
in.
All right.
Yeah, let's
You can
see it.
show us.
Da-da-da.
There it is. 3.0.
There you
Okay.
go.
Hey, a reasonable, not like an outlandish. How is this a 5 or how is this
No.
a 2 or something crazy? No, like it's a
Seems-
respectable.
Seems a little
normal-
conservative.
A
Yeah.
normal grade. I thought it was fair because I
Yeah,
think
it's fair.
too. This was still in the realm of like you're so focused on wanting to get the work done and submit it. You're excited. On the right edge of the front cover, I think I left some small, tiny tears that are technically there that would still
Mhm.
technically affect the technical grade, as we call it.
Sure.
And those little things probably could have gotten
It does say light tears to cover. Yeah.
maybe a 3.5. But
And
I
you had-
I grabbed this recently, and I remember. I don't remember what they said, but I remember looking at the notes when this came back, and it had notations about the pieces added in the conserved label. So this is just the modern notes omitting
Wow.
some of the stuff.
Yeah, because I was going to get there because pieces added seems to be the new mantra for greater notes.
Yeah.
I've got a few that came back like that.
This would be a book that would be very confusing to someone that thought they knew conserved books. But
Oh my
didn't know all
gosh.
about it.
Yeah.
They're like, how does this even?
And,
I don't
and
know
also,
anything.
this goes back to what I said earlier. There's nothing in the greater notes
That says it should be conserved.
that indicates what the conservation is.
Just on the label. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
just says conserved.
And
Yeah.
they got 10 million comics in their data in their census. There's no way somebody manually went through and deleted things. They got some kind of AI scrubbing it.
For the
Boy,
record, though,
I hope
does
that those
say
records still exist somewhere.
on the
Oh,
label.
I'm sure
it
that they do.
say, the conservation includes pieces added, tear
Yes.
seals reinforced. So
Yeah,
that's
on the label, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but minimally the label text should be here in the census or in the
I agree.
in your
Yeah.
lookup, in your verification.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations and
Yeah,
congratulations to
definitely
the correct
congratulations
guessers.
on that.
Vulu was dead on,
Yeah.
Yep.
as was Ben Stewart, and we had a lot of close guesses too.
Sure did.
Larry and I straddled it. He was at
Yeah, we did.
2.5, I was at 3.5, but we both gave plus or minus 0.5, so we were there.
Yep.
All right, we did better on that game.
that was
I want to
fun.
go back to a comment from before the game.
All right.
I want to go back to one or two comments, actually. Yeah, here we go from Ben. And let's.
Would you guys be inclined to sell your project? Oh yeah, of course. In fact, a lot of my stuff that I do, if I'll keep stuff either for my personal collection, the rest of it goes. Even the stuff we've done here on the channel ends up in my my eBay. So,
Yeah. And obviously, Phil sells a lot of work. He works in this field professionally, and then also, as you just saw, he buys from time to time books that he sees have potential. I am going to keep some of my project books, but you will see some of my other project books go to probably people in this group. I'm less inclined to sell them and more interested in maybe doing some kind of a giveaway or something. I'm not sure, but I may end up selling them. Definitely my All-Star project from last year is back from CGC with a conserved grade. I'll do a final video on that, and then it's going for the moment. I actually don't have a universal copy of that book, so for the moment, it's actually in my registry collection. But my hope would be to upgrade that. When I upgrade, I will definitely sell that book, and that'll be fun. And I'll be happy to let it go to somebody who maybe enjoyed watching that series on my channel, right?
Mhm.
Similarly, the Flash Comics, was it issue 20 or 21 that I did last year? That one also like long term, it's also back from CGC. I think I'll keep that around for a little while, but also long term, I'll let that one go. So absolutely, some of the project books I will be offering up and I'll let if there's interest, I'll let folks here know
Yeah, same.
where they are and where they're available. So thanks for asking, Ben. And it is true, yes. Also, Shelby sells books, as Jason pointed out.
Because what we do with these books is we use them to fund our next
Yeah.
project, really.
Create equity and then move on. And
Yeah.
also again, practice our craft,
craft.
And get better at and entertain you all, such as it is. Reholder. So here's the question on reholder. So technically, a reholder can get regraded,
Yeah.
but generally is not. So the default is that they just crack it and put it in a new case with a new label. That's the default. If in the practice of cracking it, they see something amiss or something that doesn't seem right, like maybe it was sun faded really badly, or clearly it was in a flood and water infused the entire holder, or something along those lines, then it will re-enter the grading process. So they do not guarantee during a reholder that you get the same grade, but the default is that you get the same grade, and it typically does not go for grading. So for example, if you think a book is an 8.0 and it got graded as a 6, and you're like, I think I was robbed, I'm sending it back and reholdered, it's going to go in, it's just going to come back to you as a 6. It will never be seen by a grader. It will only be seen by a grader if there's a very good reason, some tell as to why the grade has changed since it was slabbed and it needs to be regraded. Now, that said, my question was, is there somebody that's looking at those reholders and saying, well, this is conserved, but it was conserved under the old rules. Today, this would be a restored book.
That's what I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
My guess is not. My guess is
maybe
it should be graded under the rules of when it was submitted, not when it was reholdered. But also, I'm not sure I would want to gamble with my equity.
Yeah.
Right. We don't know. That's why I asked the question.
Larry just learned too that sometimes there's some things, even if you know the rules, sometimes there's just a new shift in some of the rules, or things just get reviewed differently sometimes by different people that are there. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, the rules that's one thing I would have to say is the rules are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
The three of us and everybody else, we're trying to keep up with them. Some stuff we may disagree with, and when we do, we talk to the powers that be at CGC, and a lot of times you can get plead your case and get it corrected.
Yeah. So I think most of us that have been working in this hobby for a while, in this sub hobby of a hobby, and in conservation, we've had to have some interaction with CGC, and I found them very reasonable. By the same token, they're usually right.
Yeah,
a lot of the complaining is people trying to sneak things in and get blue labels for work that they did. I have found very little reason to contact the customer service.
If I try to say, like a shameless plug for CGC doing the right thing despite issues that they have. This detective that we show where I added those pieces, it wasn't long after this one that I was working on I believe it was a teenage romance. It was a Matt Baker cover that I may or may not have shown on the show before. And I did the same work. I added some structural pieces to the spine, and it came back in a purple label. And at the same time, I had a client with one of the real life picture magazine issue 3, I believe, the Hitler cover that I did the same type of work on. He said, hey, both books came back purple, because right then they didn't put out an announcement, but they changed the rubric for pieces. But I with my contact there, I had a discussion. They said, because I had documented detailed pictures of the book, I was able to remove the pieces added, resubmit it, and I didn't have to pay regrading costs, because they understood the nuance of the thing, and they regraded it with a new conserved label. And that was my, okay, now I know that I can't do this anymore going forward. But they could have been like, nope, you have to pay regrading fees, and we don't know what to tell you. It's the way it is. So they were informative and they did the right thing. So.
Well, remember, I got the purple label back in one of the Vault of Horrors that we did on the show, and I sent it back, and it came back as a conserve, and they did not charge me.
Yeah. Collecting Cast says, I've been picking up a lot of low-grade early Silver Age comics, filled the collection, a little conservation work, and they look great. Exactly how you create equity and have fun, and just exactly why we do this. Awesome. Love it. Regarding when you walk away, I think at least walk away temporarily. That's what I think. Let your subconscious work on the problem, relieve some anxiety about whatever you're trying to address, come back to it with fresh eyes and new enthusiasm, and then decide, oh, actually, I think I'm done, or let's have another go at it.
For me, yeah.
Go ahead, Larry.
No, I was going to say, for me, I would be working on something, and then all of a sudden I screw it up, and I said that's time to put it away.
Time to take a break. Yeah.
Come back tomorrow.
Less is often more, though. So I would not say always keep going back to it until it's perfect. Less is often more. And also, if you have something that you learn some new skills as you practice your craft, and years from now you can go back and readdress it and get a better outcome, fine. But if your skills aren't there today, better to just leave it be, right? Don't burn a bridge by digging into something that you get over your head on. Leave it for another day, for a period in time when your skills are a little more matching to the problem at hand. Jerry wanted to add his voice that it looks great.
It does. I agree with Jerry.
Yeah. And Jerry confirmed that he was in Disney World.
The Mouse House.
Yeah. I think he left just the day I was arriving or something like that. We actually stayed literally. I stayed closer to Disney than to Universal Studios, but
if I could just say this as a specific point, like so many of the early books that I first started doing were all books that I thought were cool, but I knew that they were like Westerns from the 40s that were worth nothing, like GI Combats from the 60s that were so beat up. It didn't matter if I caused damage because I was adding so many pieces of that book. It wasn't like I hit that point where I was working on my Hulk 1 because I was 10 books in and I was like feeling like I was the guy. And then I do something and I'm like, oh my God, 10 seconds ago, this was fine. And then I just caused $10,000
disaster.
It's so easy to get in that position, which is why it's really like, work on so many cheap books if you're doing this on your own first. I think people should know how to do work on their books, but don't just jump the gun. It really you have to work on more than you think because everyone hits that point that works on books that has that, oh my God, 10 seconds ago it was fine. And look what I just did. And that book that you do that on better be a
destroying a book is part of the learning process.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to think I just did 100 books that turned out fine, so I'm good to go now.
Yep.
It's not enough. You need 2 or 3 or 500 books turn out fine.
I still remember one of my disasters, and I can't even remember what book it was. It was an expensive book, and it was wet, and I was trying something new, and I laid it down on flat plastic, came back to it the next morning, and it had dried, but it stuck to the plastic, so when it dried, it literally shredded into fingers. I had ribbons for a wrap.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and I crumbled it up and threw it in the trash. I don't even remember what book it was.
Yeah. Ben wants us to advertise our project books here if they're for sale. So at least one person would like to see that. Vanna says we have basically comic rooms more impressive than wine cellars. Maybe like messier, but yes. Nerds
we keep wine in our comic rooms.
Evangeline says permanent ink removal, paraffin wax or alcohol blending marker, or something much better. Not a lot of good options, frankly. You hope it's in a white area.
Hard.
Yeah, you hope it's in a white area. If it's over other ink, you're probably just living with it, unless it's really offensive and you're going to cut it out and deal with the material lost. So really not great options, because those inks tend to behave the same as the inks of our comic books. So getting rid of those is going to get rid of the rest.
Soak right to the bone.
Yeah. Oh, I've done this before. You get so excited to start a project. Sometimes you forget to document the status.
I've gotten better so often.
This is actually part of the reason why I did my 9 steps to comic book conservation video a while back. And it's actually based on the conservation literature and the steps that a conservatist takes before jumping into an important document. And it is, of course, taking all the before pictures.
Yep.
Then it also says climate control for the rooms. Do you have them insured? Mine are insured. I think most of us that have serious collections use the same insurer. It's actually very reasonable. It doesn't create a lot of drag on your equity in terms of the fair market value and how much you have to pay to insure your comics. You don't want to necessarily do it. I looked into riders on my regular homeowners, and they're quite expensive. And I heard some horror stories. They don't really understand comic books.
Yeah.
There are insurers that specialize, that know what the deal is, and that have really impeccable records of paying out properly for fair market value of collectibles. So that's what we do. And again, it's, actually, I found it not really a loophole, but just one of the consequences of having the insurance is your books are insured when you're shipping them. And so I've actually found that when I ship the book now, I don't have to pay the post office for insurance.
Yep, exactly.
If you add up all those
that's
shipments, you take that money, it pays for the insurance. The insurance is free if you're smart about it. So
signature confirmation is all you need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. A worse cover Batman #1, 1.5 green, married centerfold, sold on Heritage last year for $54. Yeah, that's in the ballpark, right?
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, it's similar. It depends on the market and who's doing the buying.
Yeah, I missed that one, but that makes sense. I wasn't really looking at the green label ones. Jerry, what about performing our craft with the goal of keeping the book in a universal grade, no leaf casting, etc.? I think actually there's a lot of folks practicing that.
I do both.
Phil does a lot of that because he has a lot of customers actually that want universal. And, we interviewed Susan Ciccone, who runs a company literally called The Restoration Lab. Yeah. And her first choice for all books is, let's keep them universal if possible. If not possible, let's go conserved. If not possible, then final is restored. And even, again, we interviewed her for the book, and part of the conversation, she said, sometimes she has people call her and say, I want this book restored. And she says, oh man, why? And she literally talks people out of restoration. So I think, too. Yeah. And again, it's one of the great things about our hobby, man. Everybody can have whatever they like. That's why the haters it really confuses me. Like, you don't like restored books, don't buy them, Yeah, it's crazy. Let's just see if there are any other comments we want to highlight, and then we probably say goodnight to folks. Let's just say nobody wants to say. Yeah. I'm on record. CGC is they're right most of the time.
I'll say
this. Most. Yeah, they make mistakes, right? They're humans too, but I'll say this. When I see people posting videos or posting on social media complaining about CGC, I would say 9 out of 10 of those, the people are just wrong. CGC was actually right. They do make mistakes, and they've made some biggies, but yeah. And you guys see anything else you want to chat about?
No, the ones that I saw, we got.
Jerry, there's one big one that everybody uses. I don't necessarily recommend. I don't get a. I'd love to get a referral code from them, but it's the same one that Phil uses. And Phil, I forget the name, but you rattled it off. It's just on the web. It's just Collect Insure, right? Yeah. That's not their exact business name, but that's if you just look up Collect Insure, you find that. And like
I do it as well.
Yeah, mine literally. If you're shipping enough high equity books around, it literally does pay for itself. My insurance is free.
I remember. Well, when I shipped all those books down to Heritage, they're all graded books. They were a fortune, and they're heavy and expensive, and I got just killed in the shipping insurance for them. Yeah. And that's when I talked to you guys about it. So that's where I made the shift.
Yeah,
and it's pretty reasonable. It's an annual rate. Just depends on the value.
Yeah, and what you want to insure for.
I wonder if this had anything to do with the difference between having a personal plan or having a.
It does.
You do
the business plan. Yeah.
They have different plans. You want to talk to them. I have a collector one, which allows occasional sales. They understand that collectors sometimes buy a higher grade copy and want to sell their last copy, that sort of thing. So it allows occasional sales. If it starts to look too commercial, if you make a lot of claims against it that look like you're a retailer, then you'll have a conversation with them about it. But I've had, well, in fairness to Knights of Old, I have not made a claim, though I know people who have. But I talked extensively to the agent about it. I read the fine print, and I'm pretty confident that occasional sale as a collector is allowed. Another thing is that you do need to keep a list, but you don't need to send them a constantly updated list.
No.
Which again fits with my collecting habit. I keep a personal list, but I don't want to constantly be sending them a list. That's
say for me, I have eBay store. I've got usually about 200 books on there at any given time, so I'm shipping quite often, and so I want the business route, and it's not that horrible. I think the quote I got last time I looked was $500,000 was $1,400 a year, which is reasonable.
Yeah, and you can also break it down into fire loss, theft loss. Like if you have a bulky collection, you're like, a theft would have to be an 18-wheeler carrying my collection off. Then you can lower the theft part of it and save some money too. And again, if you have a fire detection system, if you have a home security system, all that kind of stuff, there's discounts for all of it. It's my personal one is around $800 a year to insure mine, and I'm comfortable with what my loss and what my exposure would be. And again, it pays for itself,
especially with the shipping.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. In case of success, Susan is a legend. Always nice to hear from friend of the channel, Kat. Thank you. We put time and energy into it, and we're glad people enjoy it. Jason says, after the book comes out, I'd love to attend some sort of conservation workshops. Has anyone ever considered putting something like that together sometime? So folks have done that historically. Bill Sorrell used to do it. Susan Ciccone used to do it. We actually talked to Susan, funny enough, because we interviewed her for the book, and we talked to her, and she said she had her old class notes. And I said, you mean like you have a syllabus? And she said, I guess it's kind of a syllabus, right?
It's a syllabus, yeah.
And we talked to her about potentially taking that syllabus, expanding it, maybe publishing it. And we're restarting workshops. So early days,
Really
but
cool stuff.
yeah, maybe something will be in the works. There are lots of opportunities. I use Shippo, again, unpaid plug, but I tried Pirate. I like Shippo a little better. And
I'm still USPS, so
awesome.
Fun
Well,
episode.
I think that's a wrap, guys.
I think so too.
and
I think it was a good
gals.
night. Yeah.
Yeah. Really appreciate everybody joining the show. Happy New Year. Great start to 2025.
Happy 2025. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
a trip to say that.
thanks again for the super chat from AG and Jason.
absolutely.
Archivist Drift. Really appreciate you guys. Next show will be live, ad-free on those two gentle folk. And I think with that, we will bid you all adieu. And I will say until next time, take care of one another.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.